Welcome to the Self-Discovery Files, a place for reflection, challenge, and becoming who you're meant to be. I'm your host, Dylan Phipps. You can find me on TikTok and Instagram at @TheDylanPhipps for more daily insights. Enjoy. Welcome back to the Self-Discovery Files, where we unpack growth, direction, and what it means to build yourself from the inside out. I know last episode we talked about self-trust, about keeping your word when nobody's watching, but there's a question that comes after trust. What happens when the feeling fades? When you're not motivated, when the excitement that you made you start just dies? And that's where discipline steps in. So we're going to stack the next brick on there. And motivation is the spark, but discipline is the reason the fire keeps burning when everyone else walks away. So in this episode, I want to break down what discipline really is. Not as a buzzword, okay? Because so many people talk about discipline as this like idolized trait, and it's kind of corny and it's not realistic. I don't want to talk about it as a buzzword, but rather as a way of living. Because the truth is, motivation is emotional and it's short term, but discipline is identity and it's who you become when the hype is gone. So let me start with a story. When I was younger, I was good at a lot of things. Naturally good. I was naturally smart, naturally athletic, just inclined to be good at everything. And that became a problem, right? Because when things come easy, when you're always good at things, you stop respecting effort. And so that changed when I got to high school. I tried out for the soccer team and I made varsity as a freshman. And when I hit varsity, it all changed. Suddenly, everybody was talented. Everyone was strong, and what separated people wasn't skill. It was consistency, hunger, discipline. And I remember there was one specific night after practice. I was sitting after one of our summer practices. I was drenched, my legs were killing me, and I had my head down and I realized something brutal, that I had been relying on my talent my whole life, and I had never learned how to be consistent. And that night was the night that I learned that motivation will hype you up, but it won't hold you up. It's a temporary high and it dies when it meets resistance. And if you want the truth, talent without discipline is insecurity in disguise. Okay, I did this a bunch when I was younger. You keep calling yourself potential to avoid the reality that you haven't put in the work. I remember I'd always tell people, "Yeah, I have the potential to make varsity," and you almost get the praise without doing the work. You get the praise of, "Oh my gosh, like really? That's awesome," without doing any work. And so that is insecurity in disguise. And I had to face that. That was my first wake-up call. And that was the moment that I realized that motivation is not power, because I had felt motivation before. It was just comfort dressed up as progress. Discipline is where your ego gets tired of lying to you. Okay? Motivation feels powerless, but it's really just dopamine, right? It's your brain rewarding you for wanting change, not necessarily for creating it. And I know you've felt that, the 3 a.m. motivation. You felt the brief sparks after watching a video or seeing something that kind of hypes you up, and it's usually from external stimuli, right? Think about it. You start the year hyped. You get the new gym membership, the new planner, the new habits list. You write down your goals for the year, and for about a week or two, you feel unstoppable. You are on top of your habits. You're doing the things that you need to do. You're accomplishing your goals. But that fades because motivation does not feed you. It teases you. Motivation gives you emotional sugar, right? And if you know anything about a sugar rush, it spikes and then it crashes. Okay, discipline, and I'm going to give you a lot of analogies here. Discipline, not necessarily analogies, but metaphors. Discipline, on the other hand, is protein, okay, and it sustains and it builds. Here's the difference, okay? Motivation is external. It depends on how you feel. That feeling you get when you watch that video at 3 a.m. calling you out and telling you what you need to do, and you start thinking, yeah, you start feeling it. You're feeling the motivation surge through you of, I need to start doing these things. Now, discipline is internal. It depends on what you value. And that's why so many people get stuck. They build a system that only works when they feel good, when it's exciting, when it's new. But life is not new every day. Life is very repetitive. And if your consistency depends on novelty, you'll never build anything permanent. You can't live off of hype forever. Motivation is borrowed energy. Discipline is the energy that you own. So let's talk about what discipline really is. Because, like I said before, I don't want to talk about, the corny ways that a lot of people like to describe it. And it's almost like a motivational thing that when people talk about discipline, they get this kind of motivational rush from talking about discipline or seeing videos on, TikTok about discipline, and it gets them motivated. A lot of people think that discipline is control, right? That it's about forcing yourself to do the things you hate. And while that can have some truth, in all totality, that's wrong, because discipline is not control. Okay, it's clarity. And I mean that because I say it's alignment between who you say you are and what you actually do. Every time that you keep your word, you teach your brain that your word means something. Right? We talked about this last episode. And that's powerful because your brain just stops arguing with you. You stop negotiating with yourself. You just do. And that's what real discipline feels like. Not pressure, but peace. You stop wasting energy convincing yourself to do what's right. And in today's world, discipline is rebellion. Everything is designed to make you soft, comfortable, distracted, addicted. I know so many people, and honestly, it's probably the majority of the population that's addicted to comfort and dopamine. Everybody is comfortable, and everything today is designed to do that to you. You want to watch TV? Boom, put on Netflix with a click of a button. You want some food? You want some tasty dinner? Order it from your phone with a click of a button. You want to go someplace? Cool. How about you order a ride from your phone? Choosing to show up, stay consistent, and build something real? That's not normal anymore. That's rare. And that's why I say discipline isn't about restriction. It's about self-respect. It's the decision to choose your standards over your feelings. Motivation asks for hype, asks for emotion. Discipline asks for proof. So you might be like, Dylan, I live my life every day. It's pretty good, right? And I wouldn't say I have discipline. Let's talk about what the lack of discipline costs you, because so many people are actually unaware of what it's costing you, which is why they don't want to make a change. Here's what happens when you don't have discipline. Everything starts to feel heavier than it should. Okay? You wake up late. You grab your phone, you scroll. You say you'll start tomorrow, and the day ends, and you're mad at yourself, but not mad enough to change. And a lot of people will call that laziness, that cycle. But that's not laziness. That's grief. That's grief for the version of you that you keep betraying. When you break promises to yourself long enough, you'll start to believe that you're unreliable, and you stop trusting your own voice. You stop trying. You stop giving an effort because deep down you know you won't follow through. That's how self-doubt starts. Not because you failed, but because you lied to yourself too many times. And when that happens, you don't just lose motivation. You lose respect for yourself, and that's way worse. I talked about that. That's why discipline matters. Because every small commitment that you keep, even when it's boring, repairs that relationship with yourself. You don't need to get motivated. You don't need to prepare. You need to stop breaking your own trust. There's no peace in knowing what to do. There's no peace in overly preparing. There's no peace in trying to think of all the ways that you would do things. There's only peace in doing it. So how do you fix this? Right? How do you develop discipline? You make systems. You stop relying on feelings. The day that you stop relying on feelings and you realize that feelings are so unreliable is the day you might change. Discipline isn't about controlling more. Okay, a lot of people think that it's about control and having the control of your life. It's not necessarily about that. It's about deciding less. It's actually way more freeing to be disciplined than to be undisciplined. I stopped asking myself, do I feel like it? And I started asking myself, is this aligned with who I said I'd be? Is this aligned with somebody that I want to be? Does this get me closer to my goals, to what I'm trying to achieve? Those questions saved me hours of wasted energy. You see, in my life, I make it easier to win. Okay? My gym bag is ready for me and packed the night before. My alarms are away from my bed. My phone stays in another room when I work. I have time limits on my social media. I have a glass of water, or at least my water bottle, right next to my bed when I wake up so I can immediately drink water. Structure doesn't limit you, it frees you. Because now you don't waste your willpower on small decisions. You channel that into movement. Right? If you can design your structure and design little things that make it easier for you to complete those things, that's how you systemize it. Right? If you start systemizing your life over your feelings, you'll start deciding in your life. A lot of people procrastinate because they have to make so many decisions in life. They have to make so many decisions on what to do, when to do it, how to do it. And by then, they've already wasted a lot of mental power that they could have used doing the actual thing. Structure doesn't limit you. Okay, it frees you because now you don't have to waste your willpower on small decisions. You can channel that into movement, right? And here's what I learned. People who think structure is restrictive don't understand it. Structure doesn't trap you. It's what gives you direction. Okay, discipline is not a cage, it's a compass. And the reason that you keep showing up for that structure, the reason you don't quit, is because of purpose. Right? I say this a lot, purpose over pleasure. Pleasure is easy. Pleasure feels good. Pleasure is super easy to give into because it's what It's what gives you dopamine, it's what makes you feels good, and oftentimes it is the most available thing to you because nowadays your life is probably structured around giving you dopamine. I mean, everything in life is structured around giving you pleasure. Purpose, however, is earned. Purpose feels right later. And when you attach your habits to purpose, pain starts making sense. The early mornings, the long nights, they stop feeling like punishment, but rather they start feeling sacred because every time that you follow through, you're proving something. And let me make this clear, you're not proving something to others, you're proving it to yourself. And that's why the most disciplined people aren't the most motivated. They're the most anchored. Okay, pleasure fades fast. Pleasure fades incredibly fast, but purpose compounds. You can binge pleasure. You can turn on a Netflix show and binge a whole season, but you can't binge growth. And when your habits are tied to purpose, every small action matters. It's not about the dopamine of progress, it's about peace. Pleasure makes you forget, purpose makes you remember. So if you're listening right now, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, but I have no clue where to start. You're telling me all this and I understand it, but I don't know how to incorporate this into my own life. Where do I start? Start with one thing, one small promise, and keep it every single day. If you feel like you have no discipline, you're not broken, you're just untrained. And in fact, I would argue that if you think that you have no discipline, you're wrong. Because there's got to be something every single day that you get up and do no matter what. If you brush your teeth every night and every morning, you're disciplined in that. It just doesn't feel like you're disciplined in that because it's easy. Start with one small thing that you can't break. It doesn't matter if it's brushing your teeth right after you wake up or making your bed every morning. Those small wins are the foundation. That's what I started with. I started with getting up and making my bed every morning. Every kept promise adds to your word. Every broken one takes it away. And when you start stacking those small promises to yourself, that's where that self-respect comes in, and you'll build that discipline. You'll stop doubting yourself. You stop overthinking. You just start acting. And here's the thing. If you relapse, and if you break a promise, if you miss something and you kind of slip up and give in to pleasure, don't wallow in it, okay? Reflect, adjust. Discipline isn't perfection. Nothing is perfection. It's just persistence. You're not building discipline, you're remembering it because deep down you've always had it. You just stopped listening to it. So take 10 seconds right now. Think of one thing that you said you'd do this week that you haven't done yet. You don't need to tell anyone, okay? Just decide if you'll actually do it. That decision, that moment right there, that's discipline forming. Okay? So here's the thing that I want you to remember. Motivation fades. Okay? Discipline stays. Motivation is loud. Discipline is quiet. Motivation gets attention. Discipline gets results. Every time that you show up when you don't feel like it, you reclaim a little piece of your power. Discipline is what it feels like to be grounded. It's peace through earned consistency. Because when you stop negotiating with yourself, you stop losing to yourself. And that's when things start to shift. Discipline is not about control. It's about alignment. Doing what your future self will thank you for, even when your present self doesn't want to. And the moment that you can do that, you'll never need motivation again. So, thank you for listening to the Self Discovery Files. If this episode helped you rethink discipline, share it with someone who needs it, follow the show, and I'll see you next week as we keep building from the inside out. Thanks for listening to the Self Discovery Files. My name is Dylan Phipps. Keep showing up for yourself, stay grounded, stay curious, and keep becoming who you're meant to be.